Welcome to another edition of Strange Planet. And on this episode, the Jeffrey Epstein case is igniting fresh controversy as the U.S. Department of Justice pushes to unseal grand jury transcripts citing public interest. But experts are warning they'll be brief, redacted, and procedural. House Democrats, meanwhile, are demanding a vote for release of those documents before August, while GOP leaders are stalling. Edited jailhouse footage from Epstein's death is missing 3 minutes and sparking distrust. The DOJ seeking to interview Ghislaine Maxwell, who's appealing her 20-year sentence. They're looking for new leads. President Trump is demanding full disclosure, yet maintains no client list, no blackmail evidence, and a political showdown is looming. But will these moves uncover the truth or fuel more speculation in this explosive scandal? Kevin Shipp is a decorated CIA officer turned whistleblower, a man who walked the halls of Langley and peered into the abyss and then lived to expose the rot at the heart of the American intelligence apparatus. He's the author of the explosive new book, Twilight of the Shadow Government, How Transparency Will Kill the Deep State, a chilling expose of how secrecy sustains tyranny and why truth is the system's ultimate kryptonite. He knows how the deep state really works because he was part of it. And when he tried to warn the world, they came after him. Few understand the architecture of secrecy, psychological operations, and institutional corruption like he does. He's spent years warning Americans that the greatest threat to their freedom isn't foreign, it's domestic, entrenched, and hidden behind layers of classification and plausible deniability. And he's here returning to Strange Planet to help us crack open the mystery of Jeffrey Epstein, the billionaire predator who seemed to operate with impunity until he didn't. Was he merely a monster or a manufactured asset protected and deployed by a clandestine intelligence network? Was he running a honeytrap on behalf of the CIA, Mossad, MI6, all three? And if he was, who were his handlers? This isn't conspiracy, this is espionage. So fasten your seatbelts. We're going to take a deep dive into the black file. Kevin, welcome back to Strange Planet. How are you?
Hi, Richard. Thanks for having me. It's great to see you again.
You too. So let's dive right in. Based on your experience inside the CIA, does Jeffrey Epstein fit the profile of an intelligence asset?
He does exactly fits the profile of a high-level, very valuable intelligence asset. And a lot of people are missing part of this, although it's kind of right out there for everyone to see. But people are coming out saying, well, he was a Mossad agent, and that was foreign penetration of our political system. And they're neglecting to dig into the obvious fact that he was also a CIA asset as a joint Mossad-CIA operation. And if you remember in the Epstein trial where he got off the first time, which was an abomination, the AG, Alex Acosta, was told to drop the case and not prosecute Epstein fully because he was, quote unquote, connected to intelligence. And he'd been told that from higher levels, not in Israel, the Mossad, but in the United States, in other words, the CIA. So we're dealing with, and I think you're very correct on this, a huge scandal, maybe one of the biggest scandals in U.S. history here with Epstein now and what's going on regarding Epstein within the administration. It's serious in my view, and it's very concerning.
What kind of operation are we looking at here? I mentioned, a honey trap, blackmailing operation, although, again, the DOJ says no evidence of a blackmail scheme. To the best of your knowledge, based on your experience, what kind of an operation are we looking at?
Well, it's a compromise operation, also an access operation, where it was clear that Epstein had a huge network of connections amongst all of the elite in the United States and even around the world, having them at his house and engaging in some of these activities he was alleged to do. This would be probably the most valuable intelligence espionage asset that the CIA and or Mossad would ever have. Plus, he had extensive multi-billion-dollar financial networks and mysterious banks overseas with money that came in really out of nowhere and made him a multi-millionaire out of the blue. This is dark, it's deep, and if you look at just the evidence, as I think your audience does, and anybody that wants to look at this analytically, this is a case of massive global human trafficking, a network, and these young girls were trafficked to elites and billionaires and politicians and others. And then Epstein was filming, and we have seen some of the photographs which now apparently do not exist, of his tapes, footage, and hard drives of all of these activities. The concerning part for me, Richard, most of all, almost maybe heartbreaking, is the fact that Trump is trying to make this go away. Now, my master's degree is in forensic psychophysiology, the detection of deception through a person's actions, behavior, what they say, what they do, how they act. And the way Trump is acting is clearly deceptive to me. It indicates a sign of guilty knowledge that he is trying to make this go away. The list existed, now it doesn't exist. There's nothing to see here. It's a hoax created by the Democrats, and on and on and on. All these unfounded things that Trump is saying to try to make this thing go away. And Pam Bondi, who by the way has her own baggage with Qatar even before she was brought into the administration, is just following the marching orders to try to eliminate this investigation entirely. It's gut wrenching, Richard, for me, really, to watch this happen. They're trying to make it go away. Sadly, Trump is clearly trying to make this go away now. And I voted for him twice. I'm not a Democrat. I'm an independent. I'm just looking at this analytically. Trump is trying to make this go away because it's very serious, and I think it goes very deep and very damaging.
I mean, I don't know for certain, but I personally find it difficult to believe that Trump would have been somehow involved in trafficking or placed in a compromising situation with an underage girl. I find that hard to believe. I could be wrong. Is it possible he is covering for, I don't know, a member of his family, a large donor? I mean, and if this were the case, that he is somehow implicated, why wouldn't the Democrats, everyone forgets, they had access to the same files and so forth during the Biden administration and before Trump. Why wouldn't they have revealed these files if Trump were somehow connected?
Yes, and I agree with you. I do not think that Trump engaged in any human trafficking or child trafficking or any of that. There's absolutely no evidence of that. I think the evidence that's emerging shows that he and Epstein were very, very close and very, very tight and involved in events with just the two of them and young girls. Trump's kind of predatorial tendencies, I think, connected to Epstein are what is the problem here. And Epstein, being a Mossad CIA agent, and possibly with Russian connections, also this would have been a golden opportunity to entrap, one of the most powerful men in the United States and one of the wealthiest men in the United States. And of course, he would be target number one. So I don't think Trump was involved in the trafficking at all, but I think he was involved in Epstein's activities and his behavior, his kind of lurid behavior with young ladies.
So again, why do you think, after all of the lawfare and all of the prosecutions and so forth, wouldn't the Democrats have released that information if Trump is implicated?
Another excellent question, and there's two answers to that. One is Bill Clinton, and the second is Bill Richardson, both Clinton, the highest level player in the Democratic Party, probably has the deepest involvement with Epstein and trafficking of anyone, and that is the Democratic Party. So they've got their own stake in this thing not coming out because it involves some of their most famous and highest level politicians. This is the really shocking thing about this, or the disturbing thing, is this is on both sides. This is in both parties and both sides of the aisle, and it extends to universities, it extends to financial systems, it extends to J.P. Morgan, who settled for a total of $400 million to silence the witnesses. And this is the kind of evidence they're saying does not exist, and it's right out there, and it does exist. So this is huge, and it's not going to go away. As much as they want it to go away, it's not going to happen because people have seen too much. There's too much out there of Trump's interaction with Epstein in regards to partying with young ladies and kind of that sort of behavior. And there's too much evidence that Epstein was indeed a high-level, very valuable espionage intelligence asset. So you put all those things together, and this is not going to go away. not shocking, disturbing that the GOP doesn't want Maxwell to come and Ghislaine Maxwell to come and testify before Congress. Why in the world would they not want her to do that? There's so many tentacles here. Epstein was out and he was arrested under the Trump administration. Maxwell was put in jail for 20 years, allegedly for a crime Epstein did not commit, and allegedly for not trafficking young ladies. But she got 20 years based on the evidence. And we can go on and on and on with the evidence that this did happen, and it is deep and it is expansive amongst the elites and politicians of the United States. And that's why they're trying to, on both sides, keep this thing from coming out.
The Department of Justice is claiming, again, there's no client list, and that the grand jury transcripts are thin and procedural. In your view, is this I mean, what are your thoughts on this idea that the grand jury transcripts aren't going to reveal anything?
Well, again, I'll say this from the point of a behavior analyst. It's a smokescreen. Initially, Trump wanted to attack anybody that brought this subject up, and that just made it worse and worse, and even made the MAGA base more upset because he wasn't being forthcoming with evidence that everybody knows exists. So they turn around and they say, okay, he ordered that all of the evidence in these trials be revealed to the public. Well, that's not going to happen. This is secret grand jury testimony where much of it is redacted, blacked out. The public doesn't have access to it. It's not going to show anything. It's going to, up front, initially, it's going to go through appeals. It's going to go through fights in court. The information in some of this grand jury testimony is not related to some of the wider aspects of what Epstein was doing. I think it's just a show. And I don't think anything's going to become of it that has any substance. It's going to drag out for a while. And if it ever does come out, it's going to be redacted. But I think it's a stalling technique or tactic.
Let's talk Mossad. There's long been speculation, especially given Ghislaine Maxwell's father's ties, Robert Maxwell, that Epstein may have been working for Israeli intelligence. In your view, is there credible reason to believe this was, you mentioned, a joint operation between the CIA and Mossad?
Absolutely. As my teenage daughter used to say, duh. You know, Robert Maxwell was one of the premier espionage agents in history, both of Israel. He was connected to the KGB in Russia. Ghislaine Maxwell and her sister both were closely tied to their father and the Israeli espionage network. So without question, the Mossad was involved in this. And even though the former Israeli prime minister and former head of the Mossad came out and said, I can tell you right now, we never had an operation, intelligence operations using Jeffrey Epstein. And I tweeted out a laughing emoji with that. Remember, these people function by plausible denial and lying. And this operation is so extensive, so pervasive, and so damaging to so many high-level people. Do you think they're going to come right out and say, well, yeah, we did it? Of course not. They're going to lie. And that's what they do. And that's what the CIA does by plausible deniability. They lie as a way of doing business. So, yes, Epstein was connected directly to Mossad, Israeli intelligence. And obviously, he was connected by Alexander, the AG Acosta's statement that high-level intelligence officials in the United States told him not to prosecute and to drop the Epstein charges in the first case and gave him a lenient sentence. That came down from U.S. intelligence. So it's a combination of the U.S. and the Mossad. And having been in there, the Mossad and the CIA work together on operations all the time. We're kind of frenemies. We work together on significant operations, and then we spy on each other at the same time and try to steal each other's secrets. And that's just the dark underbelly of the world of espionage. But this was a joint espionage operation with Mossad and with the CIA, and I think the evidence is out there to prove it. So when AG Acosta had this case essentially, or the main charges dropped, and Dershowitz had the identities of the victims sealed, so no one would ever know who they were. When it was dropped, Alex Acosta was promoted by Trump to I think it was the labor secretary. He was given not any sort of chastisement, a significant promotion, which got him out of that arena and into a higher level presidential appointed position. I look at this from kind of a global view. From a distance, it's like, oh my gosh, you can see this whole thing playing out, and it's for me. And I voted for Trump. I'm a huge fan of a lot of the policies and things that he's done, wiping up the rot and corruption in this country. I think most of us that voted for him are, but that doesn't mean I'm going to close my eyes to what appears to be an extensive espionage operation through Epstein and perhaps Trump's involvement, at least in some of Epstein's lurid activities, even personally.
You said in the past that the deep state uses compartmentalization and deniability as shields. Could Epstein's operations have been run through a third-party cutout, maybe allowing high-level officials to deny knowledge while still benefiting?
Absolutely. Absolutely. They do that as a way of doing business. There are high-level compartmented areas and staff within the Central Intelligence Agency, and even by Mike Pompeo's admission and James Woolsey's admission, some of these compartmented programs the director of the CIA himself did not even know about. So there are compartmented programs, this of which I am convinced is one, that are so compartmented that, of course, Congress, the Senate, the intelligence committees, for what they're worth, don't know a thing about what this operation is going on because it's so highly compartmented within the CIA. There's absolutely no question about that.
Is it possible, maybe even likely, that Epstein's purpose was not only to blackmail individuals, but maybe to create a controllable class of, I don't know, elite puppets whose secrets would ensure their silence and their obedience?
I think you nailed it, Richard, right there in a nutshell. Yes, I think that's what it was all about. And if you look at the people that are not decrying what Epstein has done, and the people that are avoiding even talking about it, the elites, high-level officials, CEOs, corporate CEOs, the head of Victoria's Secret, and on and on and on, these people are deadly quiet about all of this. And that says something in and of itself. I think you're right. I think it was a high-level operation to control and manipulate people in significant positions in the corporate and government areas in this country and abroad.
If this was a classic honeypot or blackmail op, where is the surveillance data, the tapes, the files? I mean, could this trove of evidence still be in play, perhaps, I don't know, held by a rogue actor or intelligence faction as leverage? Do you think it's still out there?
Yes, and I've said this for a couple of weeks now. This stuff is compartmented. This level of CI operation, and this magnitude and this value in terms of espionage, those records are deeply hidden in the CIA. They're highly classified, so highly classified that I'm sure Pam Bondi doesn't even know the extent, although I think she knows some. She knows the tip of the iceberg. She doesn't know even the extent of what the CIA has in this espionage operation. So, and that's how this, and I've said this in many, many interviews, that's how the CIA does it. It classifies these things at high upper level compartments so no one can ever see it. Congress, the intelligence committees, as I said, even the president or anyone else can never see it because it's too highly classified. That's why I've decried this since I came out and revealed the shadow government in the first program that I did. That's how they do it. That's how they conceal this stuff. They classify it at high levels, and then only a handful of internal CIA high-level officers have access to it, and no one else can see it.
While you were in the CIA, were there whispers about Epstein and a honeypot operation? Honeytrap operation, rather?
Never heard a thing. And I'll give you an example of why. I was a protective agent on the 7th floor on the staff of William Casey during the Iran-Contra scandal, where the CIA was running drugs through and from the Nicaraguan Contras to try to release the hostages. I was on the 7th floor. My post was in his house. We were in the motorcades with him while he was talking to some of his cabinet level members. We were on the 7th floor when he was meeting with officials from all parts of government. This is the CIA director, William Casey. And none of us knew one particular operation where Casey was meeting with the Saudi prince to target a Muslim imam in a mosque next to a Muslim girls' academy, accusing him of being a mastermind of terrorism. So the CIA, without any of our knowledge, and we were there, we were right next to him, without any of our knowledge, the CIA in Saudi Arabia arranged an operation where they planted a car bomb right outside the mosque, right next to the girls' school. Had the whole thing set up, had the bomb timed and set off, ready to trigger when he came out. The imam walks out of the mosque, and you can Google the bits of information in the news that are out there about this. The imam comes walking out of the mosque, and one of his patrons waves him over and wants to talk to him. So he stops, and instead of going over where the explosive was, he turns around and goes over to talk to one of his patrons. Well, it was too late. The explosive goes off, the bomb is detonated, and 64 women and girls were blown to bits all over the street through that operation. Now, you never heard that in the press? We had no idea. Casey was doing this. I had a post in his house. We drove around with him. We took him to and from the OEOB and to the White House, into the Situation Room. And everywhere he went, we were, including traveling overseas to meet with other intelligence agencies. And none of us knew anything about this operation. That's just an example of how this compartmentalization works. And I guarantee you that there are even senior members of the CIA that had no idea of this espionage operation, the high-level asset that Epstein was. I mean, why would they? It was so sensitive and so pervasive, and giving so much information on so many people that who would want that compromised when you had that kind of gold mine? No one. And so you can be sure that that was highly compartmentalized, and only a few, maybe even beyond the director of the CIA himself, knew about it. And as I said, both Pompeo and Woolsey said they did that to them. So it has been done before. And in this case, I guarantee you that the majority of people in management in the CIA did not have any idea that Epstein was this level of asset.
How does someone like him rise through the ranks? Not a math genius. I think he did quite well in math, but all of a sudden he's at the Dalton School in New York, teaching math despite never having even achieved a university degree. I think it was Bill Barr's father. Was it Donald Barr, who was a former OSS, the precursor to the CIA, who hired him?
Right.
Gets fired from there, ends up in no time at all as a junior partner at Bear and Stearns. I mean, how is this? He doesn't seem like he was that competent a person. How is it that he rose to the level that he did and suddenly becomes, a multi-billionaire?
You're asking such great questions, because this has all the marks of an intelligence recruiting operation. Former OSS members running the Dalton School. His son is Bill Barr, who we know was a longtime CIA employee, going back a couple of decades. And so the CIA was on Epstein from the time that he was chosen to go into this elite school by a former OSS member whose son became a longtime CIA officer employee. That kind of is espionage 101. And then when you look at counterintelligence flags, and I was in the Special Investigations Unit for espionage, they're all there. Unexplained wealth, unexplained access, houses, ranches, all this property, all this money in the bank, millions and millions of dollars in banks overseas and banks in the United States. There were 4,600 transactions that are still stored with the Pentagon to the tune of $1 billion that Epstein was engaging in through these banks back and forth and back and forth. And where did this money come from a guy that came out of nowhere? This is all espionage. It's all over this.
Could a forensic accountant be able to trace where his money came from, and is it important?
It's extremely important, and those files still exist, and those files are still kept. I believe I'm trying to remember where exactly they're kept in terms of bank financial transactions, but those files are still there. And I think it's Thomas Massey and some others, congressmen, are pressing to get access to those files. One congressman, and forgive me, I'm drawing a blank on his name right now, has seen briefly the files, and it's Ron Wyden. Ron Wyden has seen the tip of the files, and he's the one who revealed the 46,000 transactions and the $1 billion worth of money transfers Epstein was involved in. That's in a file. It's in a financial file, and I think it's held at oh golly, I don't want to say the wrong thing, but it's held in a compartment within the government. I think it's the Pentagon, but you'll have to dig in on what Wyden said there. But the files exist; they're there, and any forensic accountant, just like the one that found out that Lee Harvey Oswald was a CIA asset by looking at some of the CIA employee pay records, same thing. You can find out a huge amount through a forensic accounting investigation through these files. They're there. They're probably a treasure trove. Wyden knows they're there. He's seen them. He's demanding that Congress act to have these files released so they can the financial committee can look at them and do an investigation. So far that has been blocked, but that cat's out of the bag now. People know it's there, so no one's going to give that one up.
The missing, I've heard 1 minute, I've heard 3 minutes missing on the security camera footage outside of Epstein's prison cell. Any thoughts on that? How do we explain that? Your thoughts on whether he was in fact murdered or maybe coerced into committing suicide? I've heard that theory as well.
Yeah, that is probably the most disturbing of all, because it involves Pam Bondi and the DOJ claiming that there was camera footage showing Epstein's cell and no one going in or out, so they could prove that he killed himself, and no one had access to his cell, but not being diligent enough to really examine the footage they were putting out, or at least doctor it further. They missed some significant things. One, the camera that was in the hallway, the single camera on Epstein's cell, was broken. You remember that. It
Yes.
didn't work. Well, what a coincidence. But the camera footage that they did release was not even of Epstein's cell. It was a camera across the little interior courtyard there from Epstein's cell. It doesn't even show the cell. It shows just a part of the stairway going up into that cell block. And then they forgot to take the editing icon off the upper right-hand corner of the screen that showed that the video had been edited. There was an entire minute. Now I understand it could be as much as 3 minutes missing that had been edited out of that videotape. That all spells cover up and concealment. And under the Attorney General and the Department of Justice. And I hate this. It pains me to say that, but as a former espionage investigator, I have to say it. That is what that looks like. And how are the American people going to get their minds around this? Now, we know the DOJ has been corrupt for a long time, but we were all hoping that when Bondi got in there, and Patel and Bongino, and God help Dan Bongino, I think he needs to get out of there fast before they throw him under the bus. But we all thought when they got in there, they were going to do what we all wanted and release all this information and bring it out for the American public to see. But instead, they've doctored this videotape and put it out as a videotape that doesn't even show Epstein's cell. What are the American people supposed to make of that? That has all of the red flags of a cover-up of this thing from the very beginning. So even though they're trying to obfuscate this, trying to make it go away, trying to make it sound like the Democrats came up with this as a hoax, and on and on and on, there's just too much evidence here for any of that to work or stand up to any sort of even shallow scrutiny. This is not going away. There's much more than even you and I are talking about in terms of evidence in this case that's not going away. And as much as they wanted to, as much as they're trying, but it's heartbreaking to see that Pam Bondi engaged in this activity with the videotape after publishing the first Epstein client list that had already been released by there's an investigator. I'm trying to remember the name. His name got a hold of the black book and released it to the public.
Nick Bryant.
Was that list.
Nick Bryant.
Yes, who's very, very astute, by the way, in my opinion. And I'd encourage people to follow Nick Bryant and follow his investigation. He released that list to the public. Well, that's what Pam Bondi released as a so-called client list and blacked out the information that was already in public. That was deception action number one. And then we have the tape of so-called videotape of Epstein's cell, deception number two. So there's been deception all through this on the part of Pam Bondi, especially. I think she should be fired, but I don't think she will be, because I think she's covering for something extremely serious.
The deputy AG, Todd Blanch, apparently wants to interview Ghislaine Maxwell, again, who's serving 20 years. She's appealing that sentence. Any thought on what Blanch is up to? And what do you think Ghislaine Maxwell will reveal, if anything?
That's scary, because Ghislaine Maxwell has said that she wants to talk to Congress and testify behind closed doors. And all of a sudden, the DOJ weasels its way in and wants to talk to her first. How has that worked out so far for us? They were the ones it was the DOJ that refused to interview Ghislaine Maxwell and get her side of the story at all. She has never been interviewed. She has never been interviewed in Epstein's case or her own case. And now the DOJ wants to talk to her first. That's scary to me. Frankly, I think she needs to have a squad of U.S. Marshals, protective marshals on her. And no, she shouldn't go to the DOJ. We've already seen that they've been concealing this information. She knows she has to go to Congress behind closed doors. But Congress, the GOP is saying, well, yes, we do want her to come and testify to us, but we'll see how it plays out with the DOJ first. I mean, how stupid do they think the American people are? Because this is just getting plain stupid in terms of an obvious attempt to make this thing go away and cover it up.
If this was, in fact, a state-sanctioned operation, what does that tell us about the true nature of our intelligence community and how deep does the rot really go?
Yeah, well, thank you for that one, because when I first came out and blew the whistle, I did a program. It's out there, still out there on YouTube, called The Shadow Government, where I get in deep into what the CIA is and how it does this. It is a dirty, dark organization that functions under complete secrecy, engages in operations without the knowledge of Congress, finances those operations with drug running and gun running and other means, so they can do these operations without the knowledge of Congress. It has a budget that is secret with our tax dollars. What we know of, and it's probably twice this, $34 billion of taxpayer dollars go into this secret CIA budget, and no American knows what they're doing with it. Congress doesn't even know, except the Gang of Eight know some of them. They don't know the entire extent, because these are top secret, highly classified operations, accessed only to a select few within the CIA. So they're spending our tax dollars to the tune of billions on operations we know absolutely nothing about, and many of them, as we have seen and have been revealed, involve basically genocide, murder, assassination, drug running, gun running, on and on and on and on and on. And they're still doing that sort of thing today.
I want to ask you about Candace Owens, and you've been on Candace's program, YouTube, Rumble influencer, and she's being very courageous in her Epstein commentary. But I want to ask you about her personal safety as a high-profile truth seeker. You've been a guest on her show. You've had some interaction with her. I don't know if you've been following her recent exposés on Epstein. What's your impression of the trail that she's following?
Well, I haven't been following it just because I don't need more of the bitter pill that I already know. And I laud her for coming out and having the courage to do this, because all of the clickbaiters and a lot of MAGA people are very, very good, patriotic, God and country loving people. But a lot of MAGA programs are just clickbait programs, and they are avoiding all of this. And Candace is not. That's Candace Owens. That's her nature. She's a very brilliant, elegant lady. I don't agree with everything she says, but I admire her courage in coming out and saying what her analysis is, especially on Epstein. And yes, anybody connected with this case that can expose it or blow it open is at risk. That's why I, through X, have called for Marshal Protective Detail on Ghislaine Maxwell, especially like right now, like ASAP, before she talks to the DOJ. So yeah, I think she has pretty good security, but her safety is in jeopardy, because this is the dirtiest, most powerful, most dangerous case in U.S. history, in my opinion. And its tentacles reach to the most powerful, most wealthy people, not just in America, but around the world. It's deadly serious. And did Epstein kill himself? No. I think it's pretty clear that now there's, I would direct people to Megyn Kelly, some of her statements lately. She's talking openly about this too, about wait a second, where is Epstein, or what happened to his, some people are starting to indicate or allude to the fact that he didn't die at all. Now, I'm not going there because I don't have evidence, but some people are kind of intimating that. But I think he was absolutely murdered. There is no coincidence in a CI operation. The cameras failed, broke down on the most important intelligence case in U.S. history and the most important asset in that prison in U.S. history. The warden never called to check on Epstein. Bill Barr didn't do a thing, never called to check on Epstein. They should have been checking on him daily. They didn't. The camera was broken. The guards fell asleep, and on and on and on. I mean, I hate to say, they must think the American people are stupid when they put out these things, but sadly, given enough time, American people will buy it. It's like the 9/11 when they found the passport laying on the street from the plane that one of the hijackers was in, that proved that he was on the plane. The plane that was incinerated completely, and the floors above and below, and both buildings were incinerated, but they found a paper passport of one of the terrorists laying on the street 2 blocks away. Things like that. This falls along those lines. It's the old doctrine, National Security Council Directive 10-2 of 1948, the doctrine of plausible deniability. You tell these stupid lies, and you tell them long enough, and you keep telling them, and you don't stop, and eventually people, they just start believing it and forgetting about it, and it goes away. That's what they're trying to do here.
I just wanted to quickly share with you Candace Owens' latest take Epstein and Trump and the Miss Universe pageant. Of course, Trump had ownership of the Miss Universe pageant. And she's highlighted press coverage showing Trump and Epstein were close in the 90s and early 2000s, attending events at Mar-a-Lago, even linked through a signed birthday message in Ghislaine Maxwell's 2003 scrapbook. Despite Trump's later denials, Owens is maintaining his association remains politically consequential, especially given lingering questions about transparency and accountability. What do you make of this possible connection between the Miss Universe pageant and Epstein?
I think it's not just possible. I think it existed. I think she's exactly right. I think it did exist, and even Trump has come out publicly and bragged in an interview that he could walk into the where the naked young ladies were anytime he wanted, the contestants anytime he wanted, and see them all naked. And anytime he wanted, he could just go in and do that. And he was bragging about it. There's other statements Trump has made. If you look at the Access Hollywood tape, which we all know about, but if you listen to the whole tape, it sounds like a demented individual in terms of sexual inclinations. Let me just put it that way. I think that's provable. And I think his 15-year relationship with Epstein, who was a pervert, hands down, no question about that. His best and closest friend, no question about that. Close friends, they do things with each other that they don't do with anything else. I mean, come on, everybody, use your common sense. I'll say this, and it pains me to say it, but based on my background, my training, and lots of espionage interviews that I did, Trump is lying. I'm sorry. The facts prove otherwise, other than what he's saying. He and Epstein were very close. They engaged in similar activities together with young girls. He bragged about it. He bragged about his kind of sexual predation in the Access Hollywood tape. And there's pictures after picture after picture of him and Epstein, some with young girls, and on and on and on and on this goes. Now, I'm not saying Trump, again, was involved in trafficking, human trafficking, but I think it's pretty clear he was involved in Epstein's proclivity at best immoral and at worst perverted activity. And of course, Trump doesn't want that to come out. And I think it's pretty clear, not just to me, it's abundantly clear to me, but I think it's becoming clear to everybody that Trump is lying and concealing, and he's ordering Pam Bondi to do the work. I hate to say that, but that's my conclusion. And maybe I'm the only one that'll come out to say it, but I have to. Because I think that's the conclusion. And I have to give kudos to Candace Owens, because she's got the guts and the courage. She's not a clickbaiter. She's not appealing to MAGA to get millions of views and buy and sell T-shirts and hats. She's coming out and saying what she believes to be true. And you have to admire that.
Where do you see this going? Is it going to go away? Is the public going to be satisfied with heavily redacted grand jury transcripts, or I don't know, is this going to potentially bring down the Trump administration? Where do you see this headed?
It's never going away. And MAGA, as you know, MAGA is in an uproar over this because of some of the evidence I just talked about. You can't deny it. You can't look the other way, as much as people have tried to do. You can't look the other way from it. This is never going away. It's clear that this is a huge scandal. This all depends on what information they're able to get out. Now, I think some of it was probably destroyed by the FBI. And how could they do that? Well, transfer it back to destroy what you have, give the records that you do have back to the CIA, because this is a highly classified espionage operation. Shut up about it and get rid of any files you have on it. Boom, done, gone. And I think that's probably what happened here. So those files are gone. The DOJ, I'm sure, does not have those files. They've been destroyed or sent back, transferred back to the Central Intelligence Agency to be buried. So it's good. I'll tell you what it's going to take, Richard. It's going to take citizen investigators like what is it called? Epstein Watch, or the fellow you and I just talked, Nick Bryant.
Oh,
It's
Epstein
going to be
Justice.
people like
Epstein Justice.
yeah,
Yeah.
Epstein Justice, yeah, which I follow now, by the way. It's up to people like Nick Bryant to keep this going and keep digging and digging and pushing because you're pushing against a global juggernaut of darkness, really. And it's only the American people and people like Nick Bryant doing what he's doing that eventually may get enough of this out so people see at least a fragment of this horrific picture. And if and when that happens, yes, it will be the end of the Trump presidency.
Where does the public go after that? I mean, as you point out, both sides are implicated in this. The Democrats, the Republicans. Are going to see the emergence of a third party. Elon Musk has launched a third party. Is he implicated in all of this?
Yeah. I was telling my wife last night, this is so nauseating because it's so complex. And it's the truth is never black and white, rarely. There's so many complexities to this thing. I'd love to see a third party. I'd jump right on there with both tennis shoes on. Is Elon Musk the one to do it? I'm not so sure about that because he's kind of setting up technocracy in the U.S. government, and AI, and that kind of bothers me. I think what would happen is there will be a revolution amongst real American patriots demanding a real third party, which I would like to see. I would love to see that, but that's so difficult to do because the two big ones are so entrenched, so well funded, so backed by power and the rest of it. It's going to take a peaceful American revolution to stop this horrific dark government that's operating in both parties. And I say that with passion, and I mean that. There has to be another party. I tweeted out a couple times, how about El MAGA? Let's make America good again. Let's band together and make America not great again and rich and wealthy and exploiting, minerals. Let's make America good again, where we're actually taking care of our own people and the poor and people that don't have health insurance and taking these billions from foreign wars and using it on the needs we have at home. How about that? How about a revolution of making America good again? That's what I'm hoping and calling for. And I think that's what should and could happen.
Twilight of the Shadow Government, How Transparency Will Kill the Deep State. How do we get a copy, Kevin?
You can go to Amazon.com and pick it up there pretty easily. And they've restocked it, so it's back in stock now, and they can get it there.
Kevin, always a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Richard, always a pleasure here, too. Thank you.
A new Richard Syrett's Strange Planet drops every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday.